Hey, we're live. Hey everybody, it's Erin Reed from Erin Reed Makes, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about CREATIVATION / NAMTA and what the deal is going on with it now that the first live show that we've had in person is over. What are my thoughts? What are my expectations? Would I go? Would I not go? Feedback from a lot of the people that I talked to while I was at the show. Plus, we're going to announce some winners from my haul videos. So these are all the fun items that I got either from attending the workshops or from the showroom floor, all coming right up. So let's talk a little bit. We're going to do the winners towards later in the video, but let's talk about the actual show. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it horrible? Was it amazing? Where was it? And it's not just my opinions. I actually walked around at the showroom floor and got a lot of opinions from the people at the show, what they thought. Was it a good show? Was it a bad show? Was it worth going next year? And even from some of the big vendors who chose not to be a vendor at this show, would they be a vendor next year? So I have lots of little tidbits that I'm wanting to share with you. And if you guys have any questions, I'm going to pull up my comments here and please let me know. Hey, Lisa, Audrey, and Danielle. Hello, hello. If I'm looking over here, it's because I'm looking at comments. And so please feel free to ask me questions. These are all my personal opinions and from a little bit of some conversations that I had. I can't reveal everything because some things are a little bit under wraps, but for the most part, we're going to dig right in and talk about the show. Okay, so let's talk about the good. I always love talking about the good stuff. All right. Was it a good show? Was it worth everything with the two shows combined? How was it? Let's just delve right in, right? Okay. So hello, everybody. Hi, Carol. Hi, Purple Pinky Promises. That's a fun name. I know it's a company. That's a cool name. And hi, Crystal. So was it worth it? Yes. So from my point of view, and I'm going to talk about my point of view and also everybody else's, was it actually worth going to the show? So were the classes that I attended amazing? Absolutely. Every class that I went to, and I went to 5 different workshops, and those were all held before the show actually opened, were phenomenal. Were the vendors at the show amazing? Absolutely. And there were new vendors as well, and international vendors, which I was not 100% sure we were going to have people coming from out of the country. I thought maybe we just have more of the American vendors. We even had a vendor from Ukraine, which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, we saw vendors from Canada. We saw vendors from the Caribbean, Ukraine, a few different ones from European countries. I didn't see a lot from the Asian countries. Usually we have a few different companies from China that are there, but they weren't there this year. Okay, so what else was amazing about the show? If you watched any of my videos from the showroom floor, hi, Raven, you probably noticed there was less people. Now let's talk about that for a minute. So in previous, you have to compare the two different shows separately. I attended CREATIVATION, which was the previous CHA show. And I had been going to that show ever since it first moved to Phoenix. So that is my only source of knowledge was from when it first moved to Phoenix. And we were in Phoenix for 4 years, I believe. Hey, Gwen. And then I also went to the NAMTA show, and I was at 4 different NAMTA shows in different places within Texas and working in different capacities at both shows and lots of things. Hey, Debbie. Now, each show is a very different kind of show. It's a very different mentality before going into it. CREATIVATION always seemed like a big giant party. There was lots of people. There was lots of fun stuff happening all over the place. There were giveaways, and there was usually some sort of loud noise on the loudspeaker. And going to the NAMTA show felt more businesslike. Not that the CREATIVATION show wasn't businesslike, but there was definitely a different kind of a vibe, a more party vibe, whereas the NAMTA show felt more formal and more businesslike. I would have to say the combined show from 2022 did kind of hit more into that business-like category for a few reasons. One of the reasons, and I totally get it and I completely understand, is a lot of people were complaining in both shows prior to this year that there was a lot of what we call fluff of people attending that should not have been there. And what I mean by people attending that should not have been there is that they were not either a buyer, they were not a manufacturer, they weren't a distributor, they weren't a creative professional coming in either working for a company or working as a demoer, or because they taught a class, or because they were within one of the companies doing something. So that's what I mean, like kind of like my job, right? So people like me, and I held a lot of different roles. I would do the videos, I would do, do the make and takes, do the demos, teach the classes, help with booth setup and tear down. I would do all that, and I would come as me, but I would also sometimes have a badge on from a company because I was there doing stuff like that. But there was a lot of other people previous years that were going there that didn't really have a role, and they were coming just to get freebies. And that's not the point of this show. I know there's so many amazing things and there's so much fun stuff. And I always do my haul videos. You can see I haven't put it all away yet. I'm sitting in my different spot today. This is my editing chair in front of my computer versus back there in my studio. But it tends to create a lot of problems when you have those people coming into the booth and they're wanting what the next freebie is, or what are you giving away, or can I have it off the, or they would steal it. That was the other big problem. People would steal stuff, which is not good at all. You don't want to have people stealing, because a lot of these companies, when they put their booths together, it's the same booth. They just tear down and set up. They might have a few things they're passing out, but for a lot of the companies, they reuse the same booth over and over and over, and they might just restock the new supplies, but they're not giving away their entire booth every time, because that's a lot of money. And these companies spend tens of thousands of dollars to go to these shows. So those fluff people is what I would call it. The ones there just to get stuff, the ones that were interrupting meetings because they're asking for or trying to take things off of walls. We didn't see those people there this time. And so those people who needed to be at the show, stealing was a big problem in previous years. And it's sad. It's so sad, because it's a business. It's a formal company. If companies want to give stuff away, great. If they're willing to have a box with samples, or they say, hey, who would like this? Or you're up into a booth and they have a giveaway or something, awesome. Okay. How did those people get in? And I thought you had to be qualified. Yes, you did have to be qualified. But there were some instances where some companies brought in people that probably shouldn't have brought them. And maybe it was the wrong person that got to come. They might have tried to sneak under some badge from somebody else, a friend of a friend kind of a thing. And it kind of snowballed. There was also some instances, and this is it's happened on the CREATIVATION side, where they were offering a badge to get on the showroom floor for $300, and anybody could get on the showroom floor, which I don't think that's the point of these shows. That's just me personally. It's a business show. The main point is there's companies coming to buy the product. There's companies that are there to sell their product, and we want those people to be there. And so they need people to demo to show how the product works. They need people to be excited about the product, which is why, I like doing the video thing. And you need people to run the make and takes, and you're having the buyers coming in to do the make and takes to learn about the product and see how cool it is, or watch the demos. So that way they can stock their stores. And we're talking stores, small mom and pop stores. HSN was there, Michael's was there, Hobby Lobby was there, Tuesday Morning was there. Think of any big buyer for art and craft projects. They were there. Everybody was there. You may not have realized who they were, but they were there. And those are big buyers that are coming in, and that's how we can get those supplies to the customers. Now, a lot of these companies also have their own online stores, but a lot of people still like to go to brick and mortar stores to buy. Anyway, so that's just my little soapbox. So the fluff wasn't there, which means, and I know I say fluff, but I mean that because if those people are not in the way of business happening in the booths between the buyers and distributors and the manufacturers, and the demo people can demo to the people they need to demo to, then it makes more room for business to happen, which is the point of that show, right? We want companies to succeed. We want companies to be at those shows and have buyers be able to buy those items and then make them available to all the customers and consumers. And my job as a demoer is to get the demo seen by those eyeballs, or me as my camera being able to come in and show you guys those demos so everybody can get excited about that really cool new thing that just got launched, or, not forget about this cool thing that is amazing, that goes really well with this other cool thing, all that about that, right? So as I was walking around and I talked to vendors from a few different sides, what I mean by sides is a vendor that would have been normally a NAMTA member and not done Creativation, a member that would have been only at Creativation and not at NAMTA, or members that would have done both shows. And those that did both shows, they are thrilled because that is a huge cost savings to them, because they would have to spend, let's say, okay, a 10 by 10 booth, just to give you guys a number idea. For somebody to do a 10 by 10 booth, they have to get all the materials there. They have to have everything set up. You have to pay for the booth itself, pay for all the people to do it, pay for the people to do the demo, pay for your lodging, pay for your food. And we're talking, probably about a 6 or 7 day time frame. Freight everything there or figure out a way to ship everything. That's probably about 20 to 30 grand just for a 10 by 10 booth with no extra fluff, extra stuff attached to it. Meaning like you take care of your own trash, you vacuum your own space, you brought all your own installations, you didn't rent any equipment and all that kind of stuff. Maybe even upwards of 40 grand for one 10 by 10 booth. And that's twice that a company is going to have to go if they went to NAMTA and Creativation. Well, now they only had to do it once. So that is huge. Do you think that's why they combine the two shows, to eliminate the fluff? No, the reason for the elimination and the combining of the shows was because the AFCI organization was floundering. And many companies were seeing the need. We're not seeing the point of it being split into two. And many companies were wanting to combine, and there was a vote, and it was overwhelmingly yes. But these were all comments that were brought up on both sides about the fluff and the need to eliminate the fluff. I say that as enduringly as I possibly can. Do I love going to the shows and getting free things? Absolutely, but not at the expense of harming a company's business and purchasing abilities, which is the whole point of everybody being there. A company can't exist and they can't get into the show and be a part of the show if they lose all their inventory, because it's gone unless they planned on it or whatever. So when you're not in the business, the cost goes on. Yes, it is a huge expenditure for these companies to go to the show. So if you have a big booth, and we're talking like a 10 by 40, and you've got like one of those things, they could be upwards of $100,000 per show. That's huge. I mean, that's a massive amount of money for one show for 1 week. Sorry, I got a boo-boo on my finger. So it's expensive for these companies to go to the shows, but do they still feel like it's worth it? And that is the question that I pose to a lot of the companies from both the NAMTA, the Creativation, and the combined. Those that were combined, they said overwhelmingly 100% yes. The business that came through, the buyers to the manufacturers talking to each other, the orders that were put in, because people will put orders in the showroom floor, or promises of orders when they get home, because a lot of people like to do it online and they just do all that when they get back, or events lined up or collaborations made. Phenomenally, yes. There was not a single company that I kind of knew the owner or knew somebody running the booth that said not worth it. Everybody said it was, and I even heard a few people saying it is the best show they have seen on either way in years, which that is amazing. I love hearing that. I think that is so, so great. The fact that the amount of money that they've spent, the amount of time and energy, knowing we're probably going to come home sick like I did and so many other people did, that they were absolutely just floored about how amazing the show was from a company standpoint. Now I'm talking about the companies that are there, right? They loved it. They thought it was great. I have my little notes to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. So the amount of companies that also made connections between other companies that normally may not have happened was also phenomenal. I heard of companies making collaborations of things that they've never been able to communicate with them. And I don't know if that was because it wasn't super gigantic. So you were able to walk past, and there was moments because you weren't overwhelmed by all the fluff coming in and worried about this, that, and the other. And there was enough people in the booth to talk to those that came through. And it was a nice steady pace. That some of the vendors could go from one booth to another and have a conversation with a company that was a great fit for a collaboration or an event or something down the line. And that happened across all over the place for lots of different companies. Products were being shared from this company to that company, and little fun things were happening all over the place. So I thought that was phenomenal. Yeah, I think it's really awesome. Yeah, Debbie, you were there, so I'd love if you leave a little comment in here about how you felt the show went. And it was her first year going, if I remember correctly. It was Debbie's first year going to any show, so it's a different opinion because she's not been to either or before. Now, what are some fun things that are also really cool about the shows? So, in the past, Creativation has always had workshops. So there was classes that you could go to. And those were always done a couple of days before, and they were also run during the convention times, which means that you were having to try and figure out how to figure out your time on the convention, but the time to do a class, and it got to be crazy. I love the fact that they only did the workshops the 2 days before. That was phenomenal. So when it came to the convention and the time on the showroom floor, that's all I had to focus on. I didn't have to worry about some other event happening at the same time in another space in the convention room or in another room or another place. I just had to think about showroom floor, which I loved for me personally. Debbie loved the show. I'm glad. And it is a great place to go and make lots of connections. And, 9 times out of 10, the connections you're going to make are going to be connections that are made while you're standing in line to get a coffee, while you're in the elevator. Elevator pitches are real at this show. Having a drink at night afterwards, going to a dinner and being in the same group as somebody else, and you chat with the person next to you. So there's lots of stuff that happens, not just at the convention room, but after the fact as well, or before the fact, or in the middle of the day, or meeting somebody in a bathroom. I have done all of that. Sitting at a table and somebody sat down next to me, or I sat down next to them. Lots of those connections have happened. Companies I've started working with just because I was in the right place at the right time, or they were in the right place at the right time, or we happened to be, who knows. Lots of fun stuff happened because of that. Okay, so what else? The events that were done by all of NAMTA support staff. They have been running these events for a while, and I think it was something that Creativation was lacking. For instance, they have a mixer, and it was a very nice mixer. It was a get-together. It was a combined, hi, Simon. You were so missed at this show. I want to know why you weren't there. You were probably busy with something else, but you should have been there. It was so much fun. Hopefully you get to come next year. But you got to tell me why you weren't there. Everybody was curious. And I have my thoughts of why some people weren't there. And that's going to be in my cons list of why some people were not there. But he knows why. And I don't know. I'm not him, but maybe he'll divulge. I'm not sure. Sorry, really ranted on that one for a minute. Okay, so the events. There was a mixer greeting event that happened where you had hors d'oeuvres and there was drinks. They had some awards happening and lots of people got to get around and kind of hang around with people. And it was part of your ticket for showing up, and everybody came. It was nice. I got to bump into a lot of people. I hung out with Mark Montano. I hung out with Beth Kingston. We kind of grumbled about a few things. We grabbed some more food. We grumbled about a few things. We said hi. We hugged, all that kind of fun stuff. We ran into a lot of people. So it was a time to kind of let your hair down before the show actually started. The showroom floor hadn't even opened yet. It was the first 2 days of the classroom, and that happened that first night. The second night, hopefully next year, Raging didn't have a big booth with demos this year, so we didn't go. See, I was curious about what had happened. They had one table. We're going to talk about that in the con list, and I'll have a comment about that. But it was good to know. I mean, I had my theories of why some people were not at the show, and I think you just confirmed them. But we'll talk about that in a minute. They had another event, which was amazing. It's called the President's Dinner. This was a phenomenal evening, and it was hosted at SeaWorld, and it was a special thing called Discovery Cove. It's where you go swim with the dolphins. Now, we didn't swim with the dolphins, but you could go. They were throwing ice cubes to the dolphins who thought they were like, treats. We like crunching on ice cubes, and my puppy loves ice cubes, for crying out loud. And the dolphins think they're just the greatest thing ever. And they're posing and they're having all kinds of fun. And so we were chatting with the trainers about that. But they also had a full dinner. They had an artist there doing like handmade postcards. It was in this space. And there was a price to pay for that, but it was like $60 to go. And it was dinner and alcohol and dessert and the event and so many fun things. And again, a lot of different people. And I ran into people, for instance, I ran into the marketing team from Notions. And for those that don't know who Notions are, if you're a small mom and pop store, you may not be able to put a giant order you may not be able to afford a $1,000 order just from Plaid paints. Well, Notions allows you to put a smaller order in and get maybe $200 direct from Plaid paints. So it's just a different way of getting your orders if you can't put in a massive order for some of these big companies, because you can lump it together with, I want to order from Plaid, and I want to order from Lawn Fawn, and I want to order from Deco Art, and I want to order from Ranger, and they can put it all together into one shipment to you. Sorry, that was my doorbell. So happened to run into them, and we were reminiscing about old shows and funny massage things for our feet and just, weird stuff and why. And also they worked with Floracraft, and we talked about why Floracraft wasn't at the show. And so got kind of their input from that, which we'll talk about in the cons section here in a minute. And then they had another event, which was for everybody who was under the age of 45, which I qualified. I was in the next generation group and we met at a local pub, just, a short walk or a short drive away from where the convention and the hotels and stuff were. And we, and that was, I think, $20 to go. And it was sponsored. All these events were sponsored by various companies. Bob Ross did the under 45 event. Golden Artist Paints, they did, or Golden did the President's Dinner. And then the first night, I don't remember who sponsored that dinner or that event, but they were all phenomenal. Everything was organized. The president of NAMTA was walking around talking with everybody. You got to meet with other people that maybe you didn't meet with them in a different circumstance. And so they just created these events that were specifically people that were from the show, and they were very well run. The food was phenomenal. The drinks were nice. They ran it wonderfully. They came and actually asked for feedback. That was the greatest thing too. So I've never been able to give feedback from a show about what I thought worked and didn't work and was great and not so great, and ask questions about something. And at all of those events, people were walking around and asking questions like, hey, how's everything going? Is there anything that we can do to change? Is there anything that you're missing? That's huge to me. And they sent out a survey after the fact, and they kept saying, hey, if you've got questions, this is the email to send it to, or if you've got comments or suggestions or anything along those lines. They were open to all of that. So I think getting feedback from people is huge, absolutely huge. And they were very open, and we'll see if they're going to take that into effect next year. So we'll see. Another fun thing about the show is they did a new thing called Demo Alley. There was good and bad things about that. I think I loved Demo Alley from a video standpoint, because I could go and I could get whatever cool thing they were wanting to show. They were demoing for that couple of hours, 3 hours or whatever it was. And I could go from booth to booth to booth. The downside is it wasn't in their booth. It was too far away, and it was kind of separated from everything, which meant that it wasn't as loud, which was kind of nice. But it also meant that I couldn't show some of the other fun stuff in the booth and other examples. It was whatever they brought to that high table. So you were very limited to what they brought with them for that moment. But I still think it was a great idea. I don't think where they had it was too far away from everything. So I don't think it got as much traction as it could have. I think they could have moved it to more of a central location and made it more of a fun event. And I think that's part of the distinction, or part of the separation between how CREATIVATION, where they would have taken that and turned it into a really fun event and had a big hype about it, and, and had some fun with it. Whereas NAMTA was like, okay, we're going to put you over here because it's more business-like. Whereas I think they could have taken the center space and turned that, which was a lounging, quiet space, and pushed that off to the side and flipped the two. Would have been perfect. Who knows? That's just my input after the fact. There's probably many a reason why they did what they did all the way leading up to it, that I don't know all those pieces of information because I wasn't part of the planning process. I'm just my after the fact commentary on that. But it was good. I liked the idea of the Demo Alley, and I really hope that they do it again next year. I'm so sorry. It's a Sunday in my house, and we have children that like to come and go and play with my other. It's the revolving. No doorbells were rung 1 hour prior to this. Okay, so those were some of the amazing things. Of course, getting to meet all the amazing, wonderful people. There's my dog. All right, I'm telling my son, I'm like, get the dog. Go put him somewhere. It's never ending chaos in my house. So, like I said, so of course, getting to meet all the wonderful people, getting to communicate with people, connections I've made with companies that I have known in the past, and maybe just made, meeting them again after this point and them going, oh, that's the perfect fit for this, whatever I need. Or a new company that I never would have had the FaceTime with them. And I am a huge person in person kind of person. That's why I do video. I'm not as good I'm better on the phone. If I can talk to you, if I can see you, if I can video chat with you, if I can meet with you in person, I shine, right? If it's just in an email, not my jam. That's how it is in your house, dude. Dogs always barking. See, Simon, you understand. There's never a good time to go live unless everybody's out of the house. And even then, there's still somebody ringing my door and dogs are barking left and right. At least I didn't have the stray dogs running through my house like I have had in the past, because my daughter opened the door and literally a random dog comes running through my house while I'm live. It was fantastic. We got him back to his owner. She was good, but still, it was one of those like, what the heck is happening right now? See if you can find that video. It was a card making Wednesday video. See if you can hunt that one down. So I love these shows because I am such an interactive person with people. There is nothing like being able to meet the people in person, and all those little side moments you just can't do in a virtual event. You can't, it's just a total different ball game. So would I go again? Let's answer that before I get to the cons of the event. Absolutely. And next year is going to be in Columbus, Ohio. And everybody was kind of going, Columbus, Ohio, what's going on with that? And my comment was, well, I would love to hit all 50 states, and Ohio is one I've not checked on my list. I can check that off my list, and I've been to Ohio. So that's how I looked at it. I've never been, curious to find out. I'm always interested in finding a new place. And I don't have distractions like Disney World or SeaWorld or fun things like that. I can go and I can, and I felt like I was missing out on all the other fun stuff. Even though I did go to a day of Harry Potter, I felt like I was here. I didn't go to Disney World, but I was there for the convention. And in Columbus, Ohio, I don't think there's anything else I'm going to think to go do besides the convention. And that's what I'm there for anyway. So, you build it, they will come. No matter where it's hosted, it's going to be phenomenal because everybody's coming together. And that's the point of the show. And there are a lot of companies that are centered and located near that space. And the amount of cost for them to go to a show in their local that they could drive their booth to versus having to fly it in is huge. I don't know how many companies are based out of Florida, but my guess is not as many as more that are in the Midwest or even on the Eastern coast, and then going all the way back to California. So one thing about NAMTA is they like to change the location of the show each year, and therefore it makes it available for different companies to come because the cost is easier for them. So that's all the pros of the convention. Let's talk about some of the cons. And they're not that bad. I mean, I would have cons from every show that I've been to about something that was funky or weird, and you have to take it with a grain of salt in terms of a con. It just means that there's room for improvement. So isn't Simon Stay's stamp there? I'm not sure. But there are a lot of companies that are based in the Midwest area. And I mean, like near Ohio, so Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Indiana, even up into Wisconsin. It is not totally unheard of for them to do a drive. But for somebody to drive, let's say from Florida all the way to California, that's insane. I mean, you could do it, So they'd like to move around for that. Okay, so a couple of cons. When it was time to sign up for the classes, which we had 2 days of classes, there was about 1/10 of the number of classes offered that there used to be. That's not the best. I think there was more, and maybe it was because it was the first year NAMTA has offered these workshops and classes to learn about the products. They've never done that before. And so they're just catching back up on that, right? And so maybe next time they can figure out a way to do it better. There's also, they could have opened up more rooms to hold classes in. Maybe we were limited to a number of rooms that we had available at this convention, even though I don't think that's the case. That's just, I'm giving possibilities because that convention center was massive. I think there was plenty of space to host more classes. We just didn't have the ability. The calm is catching a cold. Yeah, that's always, I've always caught a cold after coming to one of these conventions. You got people coming from all over the world into one place for 7 days or 6 days or whatever it is. You're going to get sick. There's no way around it. I don't know how else to explain it. There is no way unless there's always something, whatever it is. I mean, it is what it is, right? But we all got nailed with something. There was something that was there, and it all put us on our rears for the better part of, I think some of us were in bed for like 4 or 5 days, just out. So it was a little delayed getting videos after the fact. Once I got home, unfortunately, because I was just not feeling good. I'm better, and it's 2 weeks. I'm finally back up to par. I've got my little sticky note of all my comments of what I'm trying to, so I keep looking down and so I don't miss something. And sorry about the focus. I thought I turned that off. Okay. Let's see what else. There was a few comments of people, and maybe it was companies. Okay. So there was companies that I thought should have been there that weren't. But they were there checking it out and seeing whether or not the show was worth it. I'm not going to divulge which companies because that is not my place to say. And I'm not going to divulge whether or not they are going to go next year because it's not, again, my position to divulge that information. And they might change their minds. Then I look like a giant idiot that said one way or the other. But they were there and they were curious. And I think, at least from my impression and talking with the other companies, there's a very good chance they could come next year. And I really hope they do. This whole convention thing does not function unless everybody is there to be a part of it. But again, like I was saying, how much money it takes for a company to go. And there's companies that will also pay for their artists or their demoers 100%. They will pay for their entire rate to go to the show. I go as me, so I'm not stifled by being in a booth the entire time, 100% of the time. Because if a company was going to pay me to be there and they would pay my flight, my room and my board and everything, I would feel like I would have to give them 100% of my time because they paid the entirety of my way to get there. But if I get paid for just the time frames that I'm working and demoing with companies or setup time or just doing classroom time or, whatever all the other things that I do for companies, maybe I'm doing a couple of different jobs while I'm there, then I don't feel like I am subjected to being in their booth the whole time, which saves them money and it gives me a little bit of freedom. But that's what I want. Not everybody is in the same boat. Some people are 100%. I'm in that booth because that's where my products are and that's where I need to be. Great. It just depends on the person, right? But there were a lot of people like Simon, just going to tease you for a minute, who weren't there. And a huge amount of people from Ranger were not there. There was a lot of people from Spellbinders who went there, and there was whole companies that did not have a booth presence, or the booth that they had was a little bit more pared down than what they've had in the past. Now, there's a lot of different reasons for that, and I do not know every reason for every booth and why they made the choices they did, but it probably bottomed down to money. There's not enough money. They're not sure they want to spend the money. They're not sure if they're going to get the ROI, the rate of return of investment. They may have also just had a conflict because they already had agreed to do something from a while ago where they thought that was a better venture than this one. Plaid was in that boat, for instance. I wish you were there too, Simon. There was a lot of people. I really wish you were number one. I have to say that because you're on my live right now, but no, there was a lot of people I really wish were there, but there were some people who hadn't been to a show ever. It was their first time, so there's always a cycle. There's also people who have never missed a show, Julie McGuffey, since 1990, which I have to give her credit. Anytime there was a show that was available, she was there. And I think that's amazing. So I feel like there was a lack of some of the artists and personalities, which makes the show the way it is. But there's also just the companies. Some of the companies were there. But then there was other companies who I'd never even heard of, brand new companies on the scene, or just a couple years old, that were there. So I think that was really cool. And you're going to get that no matter what. I do hope more companies have the ability to go, but I also understand the amount of expense it takes and the amount of effort and just everything. So I think I like the idea that they're moving it around to different locations because it could give opportunities for more stores and more companies to come and more people to go and all that other stuff. So that's always a good thing. All right. Another one, and I got a comment from a couple of people. So I wear multiple hats. Simon's in the same boat, and there's a few other people that we are mostly card makers. I have a card making Wednesday, but I still do kids crafts and I do DIY and I do lots of other stuff. So I was happy that there was a multitude of different kinds of products that were there. But if you were going there specifically as a card maker or as a paper crafter, scrapbooking lane, card making lane, memory books, planners, you would have been very disappointed. There was very few companies that I would call your traditional or very straightforward stamping companies, card making companies. I count 5 that were there. Picket Fences was there. Maker Forte, 6. Well, you count. Okay, let me get 5 or 6. You can go watch my videos for all of them. But, you know, there were a few. And there were some that were kind of pocketed into others, and they combined booths because they demoed their product with the company that had the booth. Ranger's a card making company. They have lots of card making supplies, but were they focused on that? No, they switched gears and they focused on a few of their other products instead of some of the traditional card making supplies, like what Simon has with Ranger. They weren't promoting those at all. They were promoting their alcohol inks and how to make these beautiful flowers. And the demo was amazing and I loved it. And her class was wonderful. I took it. Kimberly. Somebody help me. What was her name? You guys saw my videos. I'm going to look this up because it's going to drive me nuts because I just hit a blank and I feel like a schmuck now. What was her name? Oh no, I feel so bad. Come on, people, help me here. I'm like literally looking. Kimberly Dean Designs. There she is. I just found it. And she was phenomenal and she did a great demo. And it's on my YouTube channel. You can go back and watch it. She has a phenomenal artistic ability with the alcohol inks, but it was more art versus card making. So there were 4 booths that did a card make and take. No, 5. No, 4, because Spellbinders didn't even hit the card making. They were doing more with their sewing and doing buttons and doing some of their other stuff. So it was just different. So there were a few people that were there. And I actually met with a few. I went to, not associated with NAMTA or anything, but I went to an event. We all had drinks and it was wonderful. Wax seals and stitching. That's it. Yes. All the binders would do something different. Which I wouldn't really call too much into the card making lane. It kind of touches on it, but I wouldn't call it traditional card making, if that makes sense. It definitely branches into the other category. So I went to a night where we had some drinks and there was a whole bunch of different companies that did not have booths, but they were there as themselves, or there are other fellow YouTubers, or there are like Rabbit Hole Designs was there. They were just coming to check out the show, walk around. And there was the consensus of a lot of them was they felt disappointed. Not with the companies that were there. They think that they did a great job, but they were just disappointed in the lack of companies that had come that were in that card making lane or in the paper crafting lane or the planner lane or anything along those lines. Those companies were not there. Simon, I think it was because NAMTA was too many companies showed their fine art. Yeah, I think people were trying to hit the fight. You nailed it. Absolutely. I'm going to put your comments up on the screen because that nailed it right there. They were not thinking the Creativation stuff like they had, even though they've done both shows in the past. And when I saw Ranger specifically, this is just a comparison. Ranger at Creativation has a massive booth. They have usually like, what is it? Like a 10, no, like it's like a 40 by 40. No. I don't know, Simon, do you remember the size of it? But it's huge. Enough that on all 4 corners facing, like on the edges of the corners where the corners meet, there's a demo table and there's somebody demoing it each time. Simon took the slot, Tim took a slot, Dina took a slot, you know, everybody had a slot and they would fill everybody in and there would be constantly something going on. When I've gone to NAMTA shows in the past, Ranger has had a 10 by 10 booth at NAMTA in the past with no one demoing, and they were just pushing out their fine art materials. So I feel like this show, they tried to do a mix between the two for the first time where they actually had a demo table. They had a bigger booth, but they weren't pushing anything except for unless it hit that fine art category, which I think was a miss to me because there was a lot of people there, buyers specifically, that would have appreciated seeing the other stuff there as well. I mean, I know Simon's got some brand new stuff that just got launched, but that wasn't talked about, you know? So I don't know. And again, just not as many companies. Lawn Fawn wasn't there. Dare to be Artsy wasn't there. Pick a company. There probably were, you know, some of them were. Imagine was there. Spellbinders was there. But We Are Memory Keepers was not there. And they usually have a massive booth. American Crafts and everything associated with American Crafts decided to pull out of the show before COVID hit. 2020 was the last year that they announced that they were going to be there. And so all of their designers and all the products associated with American Crafts, list them all down. Vicky Boutin, Shamil, down to Die Cuts with a View and everything that's all American Crafts, they decided not to come to future shows down the line. So it's just, that was a huge channel of companies not going to be there. Doodlebug wasn't there this year either. But yet there were some other companies that were there that were fantastic. So, that's always the case. Companies have to decide. And the companies I'm mentioning are companies that didn't have tiny booths. They usually had big booths, So I thought that was kind of a bummer that they weren't there. I was hoping they would come. Plaid specifically, because they did release a statement about why they were not here at the show. They had already committed to doing a Comic Con kind of event, and they were hosting this big space where people could come and make part of their costume and paint it and alter it and do all kinds of fun stuff. And it was at the same time, and they couldn't be in two places at once. And they had already committed to the other one, and they were kind of dragging their feet, I think, on this past show. But they did donate money towards a space that the creative professionals could go and hang out, kind of like a chill room, where they had coffee and they had some other stuff available. So, and they were very much involved into that. So they weren't negating the whole show as a entity. They just were not there in person with the booth. But there was still lots of really cool stuff that was going on. I have to admit that. Okay. Let's see. What's another one? I feel like there was still a big separation. This is again on the con list. A big separation between not where they placed them. And I felt this more, and I definitely saw it in the comments of my video. I had a big giant walkthrough where I walked through for the first 3 hours, day one, and I went and hit every single booth, -3. And that was a big oops on my part. And I went back and got videos from those separately, but oops. Thanks, Debbie. Yeah, hit the like and love button. Totally agree. If you want to send me stars and hit supers, that would be awesome. But you don't have to. Just watching is great. So when I walked into a craft, and maybe it's because I know these companies and they know me. Now that's a big factor probably. But when I walked into some of the fine arts booths, I was ignored. Or I saw they were busy and I left. I didn't want to speak because I was live, And I was also looking to see, did that company want me to stand in the booth while I was live filming? Because some companies did not want to have their stuff portrayed on camera because it's a big launch and they weren't ready to release it, or they just didn't like that idea. So I had to respect that. And I asked companies I walked in, if you're watching those videos, I always asked, is it okay to film? Is it okay? But there was a couple instances where I would walk into the booth. They looked welcoming. I said, is it okay to film? They said yes. And I walked in and then they walked right out. They left. And I'm standing there in the booth going, okay, what cool stuff can I see? And I'm trying to talk, whereas interact with me. People are watching this video. They want to see what's going on. And they didn't interact with me, or they ignored me, or they said hello and then turned their back, or I just felt they were too busy. And because they were having community, and I couldn't tell if they were just talking amongst themselves or if they were having a business meeting, and I didn't want to uninterrupt the business meeting. That's not in any way, I don't want to go there at all. And I wasn't sure what kind of conversations they were having. So I wasn't going to butt in and be like, hey, I'm more important than that. Because I'm not even close to that. Those meetings need to happen. Absolutely. So, but when I walked into more of what you call the crafting section, the old Creativation companies for the most part, welcoming, hey, Erin, blah, blah, blah. They may or may not have known my name. And I'm not talking, it was only this or only that. There was many in-betweens, but it tended to be, I saw comments like, why didn't you stay in the fine art company booths longer? Why didn't they interact with you more? Things like that. So it was noticeable to people watching my videos that was the case. And also some people that agreed to do the live videos. There was companies that said, no, I'm sorry, or we don't want to show our products, or please don't do that today. So I got told no by a few companies about doing videos from the showroom floor. Totally their prerogative, but they tended to be more the fine arts companies versus the other companies. So I feel like there's still a learning curve on both ends about how everybody fits together. I feel like we need to call it a new name. I feel like if we keep calling everybody from the old NAMTA word, or calling everybody from Creativation, or I think the show just needs to have a new name. We're all there together, but we need to stop separating it into being like, it's only the fine art people and it's only the crafty people. We all love doing stuff, and a lot of the products mesh together wonderfully. So let's include everybody. Let's make everybody happy. We're all the same, but we all love using the same products. And there's so many times that people will grab a product from here and a product from there and a product from there and make something amazing. And it might be more fine art or it might be more crafty, but doesn't matter. It's just creating in general. I think that's what's important. Okay, looking at my sticky note list. All right, missing amount of card makers. I'm going down my list. Okay, separation. And this is just a small little tidbit that I wish they would have done. I wish there was more classes that were offered, workshops, classes. I wish there was more opportunities for classes. They also hosted business classes, but they paid for, you had to pay to go to the business classes. In Creativation, when we just went to Creativation, they were included in the price of your ticket admission. So if you wanted to learn more about blah, 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 you know, you had to pay for it. This, or you didn't have to pay for it. It was included. This one we had to pay for. So I just negated that. You've always had to pay for a workshop class, which basically covered the cost of materials. I think that's totally fair. Absolutely. It also, you know, there's somebody who had to put together a kit. There's somebody who had to come up with what the class was about. There was somebody who had to teach the class. Not that the business class wasn't teachable, and there still was stuff that had to be done, but I don't know. I just felt that that was kind of weird. And so, and there, nothing was appealing to me on the business end for me as a creative professional. I didn't find anything that was opportunistic to me. It was more, you know, brick and mortar stores, how to increase your sales and things like that. And I could have gone and I could have learned some good stuff, but it was at the same time as a really cool class that was a teaching workshop class that I'd rather have gone to. The other negative thing I found about the classes was that instead of, I was limited to the classes because of when they started and stopped. So for instance, I took one class that started at 9 and it ended at 11:30. Well, there was no class that started at noon and a whole bunch of classes that started at 11, and I couldn't go to that. They wouldn't let me book both because there was a conflict in the time. So I thought that was kind of crummy. And so I suggested that they have like 3 blocks of classes, and every class is allotted this much time. If you want to use it, great. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. But you're still able to do 3 separate blocks and hit 3 classes in one day. And there wouldn't be any overlap of time. And just having more classes. I think a lot more space to open up classes would have been wonderful. But again, I think they're new at that. And so they were willing to take on some information. So, you know, would I go next year is the next question. With all the pros and all the cons I've mentioned, absolutely. I will never say no to going to these. I love going to them personally. I always make connections. I'm always the kind of person that I will find something amazing even in a pile of dirt. So I don't try to focus on the negative. I try to focus on the, I told you guys a bunch of negative stuff, but I feel like those are all room for improvements. I feel like those are all ways that we can get better, that we can improve. Some of them were stupid, like just the timing didn't work and I couldn't go to 2 classes at once. Oh, boo-hoo me, you know? But I wasn't the only one who mentioned something like that. So I think there's a lot of space to make things better. Am I the one who's running it and going to do that? Nope. But they asked for suggestions and I did give them. And I also mentioned that I'm happy to help if they need to have any questions answered. I'm here. But, you know, they're also, NAMTA has a paid staff that this is their job full time and this is what they do. And they spend all year organizing for the next show and getting events going and things like that. And I think that's phenomenal that you have an in-house staff that does stuff, because you need them. There's always questions to be answered and always things that need to be done. And they know versus hiring an outside company, which may not know the industry as well, which is what happened with Creativation, unfortunately. We had an outside company who was brought in to help run the show. And I just don't feel like they understood the creative industry as well. And it didn't work out very well. And that was part of the reason for the merger to happen. Plus, I think it's just cost effective for everybody. So if you have any questions or comments, we're going to get to the winners here in a minute. Don't worry. But if you have any questions or comments, I loved how lots of you were commenting on things. And I know many of you are watching right now. I can see my numbers of how many are watching. But, you know, and some of you were there and some of you weren't. But if you have any further questions or if you want me to reach on a topic, please leave a comment. You know, you can watch the replay, leave a comment there. if I didn't touch on something that you're curious about, or, I may have left something out on purpose. I will say that. I don't feel it's my space to comment on every little tidbit of stuff. If you have the capacity to come to a show, if you are a creative professional, like in the vein of myself, if you are a business, if you're a company that's a buyer or a seller, if you are a distributor, if you're somebody who does something in this industry, I feel like you should go to the show. I feel like everybody should have a chance to go to the show, but not to go to the show. And I'm going to repeat this again. Please don't go to the show with the idea that you can go buy stuff from the showroom floor. That's not the point of this show, not the point of this convention, and or to get freebies. That is not the point of the show either. The point of the show is to get the products out there so the buyers and the sellers can see it. And my job is to make sure that the buyers and sellers product is showcased and phenomenal and seen in action and is able to shine so the consumers are able to see how amazing the new products are. That is all of it that I think is in kind of in a nutshell. My response reports were excellent. Thank you. I try. Oh, I love that you guys binge watched them. That's awesome. All right. I haven't announced the winner yet. We're going to have some winners here in a minute. I just wanted to give my point of view. So I will leave this after. If you're watching after the fact, I'll leave a comment. Here's my recap of the show. The winners started at minute 50. We've got a lot to go over. Why do I get so much stuff from the convention? Well, I had a whole bunch of stuff because I took classes. And so I paid to get those materials from the classes. And lots of companies are very generous. I also got product because that's why I split it up into 2 videos. What's on the table behind me is mostly, because I haven't put it away yet, I'm being lazy, is from companies that we're going to do videos together, or we are going to do collaborations together, and they would rather give me the product in hand at the show so they didn't have to ship it to me, or they had the sample right then and there. Or companies don't want to fly home with the product, or because they had samples to give away, or they said, here, Erin, take this. So there was only one thing I asked for. I'm sorry, 2 things I asked for. And it was something that looked like it was in a giveaway thing. And I walked in and it was from Han & Mule, and they had these little books. And I was holding it and I just said, may I have this? And he totally could have said no, but he said yes. So I was able to bring that home. And I got a really cool paintbrush that I asked for from Dynasty. And they had already given me a few things because I work with them as well. And so they handed me, I was like, can I have one of those really cool paintbrushes over there? Because it was just the awesomest paintbrush ever. It's already put away up there in my paintbrushes, which are right there. But they were generous in that I got one really cool, amazing, like neon colored paintbrush. That was all I asked for. Everything else was handed to me or purposely given to me for video content. It was not me just trying to pot and get things, right? Sometimes all you have to do is ask. Yes, but I also feel that if people are just constantly asking for free stuff, that doesn't really work. It doesn't always come out the way you want to. I think people are just there to get freebie things, and it doesn't benefit, except for the person getting the freebie thing. It doesn't benefit the company, and the purpose of the company giving away the item is so the company can shine, and that, like me, can show how it's being used. So that's just me. I think companies are stupid if they don't give you a product because you sell the product you believe in. Their product will sell. Their product would buy. Okay, so yes, valid point, right? But not all companies that know me and that I work with, I think this is a very valid point, Corey. Not all companies know what I do or who I am, which is, well, I'm me. Not everybody knows who I am. I'm not some big giant name out there. I have a name. I have a channel. Obviously, you guys are watching me, so you know who I am. But there is possibly, especially if I'm walking in with my camera on the fly live and they don't know who I am, why would they all of a sudden turn around and hand me $20 worth of product? Because they're not thinking it's going to go anywhere. Is it going to go somewhere with the companies, with me? Yeah, absolutely. But they don't know that. So that may be a conversation that we have off camera or, after the fact or something, but it's not. Some companies also only have so many things that they're bringing to the showroom floor to give to people, and they may not have the ability to give it to me at that moment. They might ship it later because they're giving them to the buyers to showcase in their stores. Maybe it's for a sample they're going to put on the store. Maybe it's for their, it could be somebody from Tuesday morning that wants to see what that product is. and check it out to decide if that's what they want to purchase. And if they don't have the sample to bring home for the people back at headquarters, because they're not bringing the entire company with them, they're bringing their small division of people. They want to go home and say, do we want to add this to our shelves? And they need to have the sample to know what that is. Some companies like HSN did not take a single sample. They were like, nope, we don't want it. We're good. And I think, what was it? Joann's did the same thing. They're like, we don't want a sample. So it just depends on what company and what it is. So it depends on the company, depends on the funds they have, depends on if they know the person they're giving it to. But there's only so much that, it's all basically boils down to that product in their hand that they're giving to me is money. If you think of it that way, it is actual physical money there because they had to make it. They had to manufacture it. Maybe it's a prototype, maybe it's an early sample, and they can't just be passing all that stuff out to everybody. So Tuesday morning will no longer carry craft. Well, they were there. Couldn't tell you, but I do know that they were there at the show. So not sure where that, I don't know all the ins and outs about every company, but there it is. Okay, you guys had a whole bunch of comments all of a sudden. Didn't ask anyone. I was trying to learn as much as possible. Yeah, so I think there's a fine line between asking for a product, but if, like, for instance, if Debbie's asking for something, because she does what I do, she's got a YouTube channel, she works with companies, versus just some random person asking for, hey, can I have that? That looks cool. Well, what are you going to do with it when you get home? Is it going to sit on your shelf and look pretty? Is it going to sit in a box in some storage or in a back room that you're never going to touch? Well, that company just lost money by giving you something that you're never going to use. So that doesn't benefit anybody. So companies also know we only gave items to current, and that's totally valid. Totally valid. I don't think anybody should go to any of these shows. This is not a consumer show. This is not a CKC event. This is not a Pinners event. This is not your local craft show that, the company's there to sell products. There's no money exchanged at this show except for a purchase order, which is on paper or online for a buyer to purchase from the manufacturer. There's no cash or credit cards accepted. That's not what the show is. And so the random crafter at home cannot just come to these kinds of shows. And that's not the point of the shows either. So there you go. You loved your Tuesday morning craft specials. They are the best. So there's a difference between paper crafting items and crafting supplies. And it is very possible that Tuesday morning is no longer going to carry paper crafts, but it does not mean they will not carry crafting items. So just as a heads up on that one. There's a lot of other crafts out there. And maybe the amount of paper crafts that were at this show is an indicator of how much money some of the companies are making now. I don't know. I still feel like cards are huge, and I still feel like there's a huge lane for paper crafting and memory keeping. Planners are abundant, but there wasn't a single planner company there. Not one. Not even if they had other products like Paper House Productions. They've come to the show many, many times. They were not to be seen. But I believe they are going to some of their other big shows like Planners Gone Wild and stuff, but they just weren't at this one. So random crafters and I love that. Random crafters. That's just that. They're not random. They're amazing crafters. They're wonderful creatives, but they are consumers. They are the person who is buying the product to use at their home. They are not in the bubble of manufacturer, buyer, distributor, or creative, professional creative. So there it is. A lot of people are saying paper crafting is a dying craft. I think that's a personal yes and no and yes and no. I still think it's a huge industry. Is it as big as some of the other stuff? Vinyl's huge too, but and everything has its ebbs and its flows. It's not the scrapbooking heyday that it used to be. I feel like card making is kind of having that, but it might be coming down. Vinyl's definitely getting up there. Resin is getting up there. Yarns was up there for a while recently too. Macrame hit a comeback not too long ago. Is diamond dots or, the dot stuff, is that going to hang in there in the long term, or was that a bubble that we're still in the, hard to say. But, every craft, every creative project out there has its kind of mecca of time, and it might ebb, but it might come back. But there's still going to be those people that are going to do it in the in-between. So sublimation, yes. And that is huge too. That is definitely on the upswing of stuff. So anything sublimation is pretty cool. So, okay. Do you like having fine art supplies added to the show? Expand on your options. Ooh, here's a good question. Okay, yes. I love all things creative, and I do a little bit of everything. Now, do I tend to hone in and kind of focus on? I did scrapbooking specifically for years, and I really didn't do much of anything else. Before that, I loved doing cross stitch. Before that, I painted little figurines. In terms of my foray of what I've done professionally, it's been scrapbooking, paper crafting, card making, but then also definitely foraying into all the other crafts as well. So do I like seeing the other fine arts there? Absolutely, because I love doing those too. I just don't always put that out there for the world to see. I would love to, but I don't have companies that sponsor me or pay for videos or do things like that. Or we haven't, created a collaboration. Some of those are coming, just as a heads up. So I feel like that is a great thing, especially like, for instance, if I want to open up my art journal, I don't need to go grab necessarily a crafty paint. Maybe I wanted to grab a nicer, higher end watercolor paint to work with that moment. And that may not have been offered at just Creativation because it was more leaning towards the craft side versus the fine art side. And there's a definite distinction between the quality of paints. And I'm sure you guys can agree, if you go grab some paint that you get out of the dollar store, it's going to be totally different if you go to some fine art like Jerry's Artorama and you buy white paint, it says white paint, but you grab one from one store, a higher end value from the other store, and you test those two paints together, they're totally different. And what they can do is totally different. So being able to have the ability to have those products available for everybody and not just label it as what I call fine art, instead of just being just creative tools and creative substances available for everybody, and not feel like I can't touch that because that's just too high end for me, or I'm not going to touch that because that's too low end for me, or that's kind of crummy. I think all that stuff needs to go away. I think whatever you want to pull, whatever budget you have, whatever products you want to play with, whatever you are given, whatever you're able to get your hands on is great. Absolutely. All right. 49th and Market has proved that paper crafting is still alive. Well, Lisa, you're one of the many reasons why I have to give a little shout out to Lisa right now. One of the many reasons why I got brave enough to post my stuff online and why I'm here today is because I saw your stuff posted once upon a time, some of your projects on scrapbook.com. So I have to give Lisa a huge shout out that she's been watching me. I'm having kind of a giddy moment right now that she's watching because I have been in awe of her abilities for so long. And I absolutely agree that paper crafting is not gone. I just feel like there's many different ways for paper crafting to exist, down to the flat paper crafting, to more memory keeping like brag books, to even planners are still a form of paper crafting, if you want to think about it that way, to junk journals are a form of paper crafting. Or even if you want to go into like card making is paper crafting, or you could even go into really heavy mixed media that includes papers and products and chipboards and flowers and paints and mediums and all that fun stuff and stencils. That's all under what I call the grand world of paper crafting, because it's all under one giant umbrella in a lot of so many ways. So mixed media is boss. You totally have to tell. Okay, so here we go. Lisa Gregory, if you haven't, she has designed for multitudes of companies. She's an amazing creative. If you have not checked out Lisa, you need to, because she is phenomenal. She has an uncanny eye for how to put designs together and layouts together and products together. And she's worked for lots of different companies over the years. So go check her out. She's awesome. She was one of my beginning inspirations and reasons why I jumped into what I jumped into. And she's cool. So check her out. Okay. There's another question. What is sublimation? I love how you guys have questions for me. This is awesome. Sublimation is the act of taking a product, and there's a company out there, Artist Free, for an example, and they have a few different ways of getting the product. You take either paint, they have inks, or they have pens. They started with pens. And you draw on something, and it could be paper. Usually you start by creating a piece of art or something on just copy paper. You then turn that over and you transfer that image that you have created, and you're going to heat it so it goes from a solid all the way to a gas. You're skipping that liquid stage, which is what sublimation is, and you're transferring your design to something, and it has to specifically be with a poly coating. So polyester shirt, it could be a tumbler with a poly coating on it, it could be a little wood slice, there's a ton of different things out there that have a poly coating, and the act of heating it transfers that image from point A to point B. And I'm trying to look at my desk to see if I have something shoved on here, and I don't think I do, but it's really cool. If you look up sublimation, it is fabulous. There are so many things. It is just a really, really cool concept that you can create this piece of artwork and then transfer it from one thing to another. And kids can do it. Just the adults are the ones that are doing the heating process. So you can give some kids some really like just pieces of copy paper and the sublimation pens or the sublimation paint, let them create their really cool artwork, and they can wear it around their t-shirt because all you had to do is iron it on. And it works with your home iron, or it works with the big heat presses that you would use for HTV for the vinyl heating vinyl. It's awesome. Okay, did I see QPixel in the demo area at NAMTA? Okay, here's the story. No, but there's a box right there. So I am going to, I missed them. So I had a few different hats on while I was there. I was actually demoing in Demo Alley with Edding, which is a marker company, and we were doing their acrylic markers. I was videoing, but I also demoed in a couple other booths. So did I have 100% of my time to walk around and catch everything I wanted to? No, because there's never enough time for me. So I was cleaning up my paintbrushes. I was working in the Crafters Workshop booth. And lots of cool videos coming your way soon. So I was walking with them, or was walking, and I was cleaning up all my stencils, and I was walking past Demo Alley, and I was going to clean everything up. And Demo Alley was crickets because literally there was an hour left in the show. Demo Alley was not running on the last day. It was the very, very end. And there was a box of QPixel. I'll grab it. I haven't mentioned it because I didn't, well, no, it's just right there. And there was a flyer and there was a box and nobody was to be seen. I even called out, like, did somebody leave something? And I had my box of dirty, my jar of dirty things, and I had my stencils and things, and nobody was there, and it was just left behind. But I had heard of it while I was at the show. I think they were in somebody else's booth. They didn't have their own booth, but they had somebody else's booth or something. And I grabbed the box and I kept asking, did anybody leave this? And nobody answered. And I hated for that box to be left there. And I'm kind of looking at where the box was, you know, like what was in the box. And I was like, oh, it's card making. So if anybody hears from QPixel, if anybody has a contact for QPixel, I would love to be in contact with them because I have their box. I think it's a really cool product. And I just happened to grab it so it didn't go in the trash because they were coming around. That was the reason why I grabbed it, because there was a person who was coming through with a giant trash bin and cleaning off everything off the demo tables, and it would have gone in the trash bin. So I grabbed it just so it didn't go in the trash because I thought it was cool, but I don't know anything much about it. I didn't see a demo and I didn't see it in any of the booths. So if you know, if you're QPixel, I don't even know who, I don't know much about it. Hook me up. I'd love it. I left it there on purpose. Glad you got it. Oh, Sarah, I'd love to. Are you QPixel? Because I'm curious. I don't know enough about it, so I'd love to. Send me a message. Erin at erinreedmakes.com. That's my email. Or you can PM me on Facebook. Totally happy to. All right. So any other questions? I've been trying to put things out. You got a business card from them. Oh, thank you. Where can we find Lisa? That was the other comments. Lisa, where can they find you? I think if you guys just look up Lisa Gregory, if you look up on Facebook, I believe she had a blog. I think her blog is still active. You can look that up. I also just really want to say winners are coming soon. You guys had me all talking. Thank you, everybody who's gotten on. I want to appreciate that. So with that in mind, let's talk about winners. So from all the amazing products I got from the showroom floor, some of the companies said, if you have duplicates, if you have anything, please let us know or do a giveaway. And I had some giveaways from some of the events that I went to, and I have or had duplicate items. They handed me 2 samples, and so I don't need to keep both at this moment. Or it was a sample that I don't think I'm really going to use, so I'd rather pass it along, or, you know, I just want to be amazing and pass it along to you anyway. Or they gave me a sample and I'm going to get the full thing coming up for a video that's coming down the line. So happy to share all the fun stuff. So I have some winners to announce. So if you left a comment on either of my 2 live videos, excuse me, from my workshop haul or either of my showroom floor haul from the amazing companies who are passing wonderful things out, I'm happy to pass it along. So let me pull up. I'm looking over here because I got to pull up my banners. All right. Nope. I have pictures. I did randomly. This is how I did it. I do not play favorites. I randomly pick people. I kind of go down the list and I stop, or I have a random generator. I pulled from people watching from Facebook, and I also pulled from people watching on YouTube. And as I was getting all my stuff organized, I realized I have enough for 3 giveaways. There's actually going to be 3 winners, not just 2. I originally had 1 winner per video, but there's actually 3. Love to know if you were on, but let's go with the first winner of the day. The first winner is Dana Davis. She is from Kansas. She was on the workshop haul video, and she said, "Hey, Erin," little wavy hi, and said from Kansas with a little sunflower. How wonderful. See, this is the random generator that I used. So if you are a winner from my video, there is a link to a Google form. Please go fill out that Google form. Give me about a week or so to get everything organized and boxed up and all that kind of stuff, and your stuff will be put into the mail shortly. All right, the next winner, drum roll, please. Here we go. I should be able to like, oh, okay. I watched this one person, and she does like the tasty videos and stuff. And she always talks about what her big thing is. Like she has this random thing product. Anyway, the way she does her drum rolls is like this, which I thought was kind of cute. So maybe I'll do it. All right, is Kim Turner. This was from the second video, also from a YouTube watcher. Watching from Colorado. Thanks for showing us all the vendors from the show. So welcome. So there's the second winner, Kim Turner. So again, link is down in the information section. Let me know if you're watching. Is Kim or any of those people on right now? I always love it when they're live. I pick all these winners before I go live, so I have no idea if they're going to be here or not. But there is one more winner. I decided there was plenty of stuff to go around, and I'm happy to share. I did keep all the products that were very specifically given to me because we're doing videos. I'm not giving those things away. It was all I got a duplicate. They gave me an extra on purpose for a giveaway. It was those kinds of things. So these were not just giveaways just because I want to deplete my stuff. No, these were very purposeful. Okay, last winner. Here we go. This one is from Facebook. I do try to spread the love between those that are watching me from Facebook and from YouTube, because I appreciate all of you lovely, amazing people watching from all the wonderful, I'm just dragging it out now. Can you tell? Okay, last winner. Here we go. I got to do my thing. Last winner is from Gwen S. Simmons, watching from SoCal, and she watched on the replay. Yes, replays count, people. You do not have to watch me on the live. If I ever do a live video, click the link down in the information section to put your information in so I can mail out your products. But just for future, whenever I do giveaways, I always give about a week from when if I do it on the live. You can watch on the replay and leave a comment on the replay. And yes, it totally counts whenever I do fun giveaways. Happy to have comments after the fact. So replays totally count. Absolutely. So if you are a winner, congratulations. Thank you. Oh, Gwen is on. I love that. I love it when people are on at the same time. Still watching. What's up? I wish I could give something to every single one of you, but that's a lot of cost for shipping on my end. And I don't have enough stuff to go around. So I wish I could. I really, really wish I could. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have any other questions for me about Creativation, NAMTA, anything at all, please let me know. And if you are any way obliged and would like to throw the Facebook stars my way, if you're watching from Facebook, or if you're on YouTube and you want to do like the super chats or the super thanks or whatever doodads, or if you just want to throw me a heart and a thumbs up, that would be awesome too. All the love is appreciated, and I absolutely love what I do for you guys, and I appreciate you watching. So hugs to all of you, and I will see you guys again Wednesday for Card Making Wednesday at noon Central, live on both YouTube and Facebook. So fun cards coming your way, maybe some techniques I learned from the show. Have an amazing day, everybody. Bye-bye. I got to wave this way because I'm in the way.